Shalom. This is Hadassah Batsaiwan returning with part 5 of this wonderful study called The Kingdom of Heaven. And what we're going to look at is, where is the kingdom of heaven? I know by now, if you've watched the other 4 parts, you have an idea where the kingdom of heaven is. If you've watched my other videos, you will know where the kingdom of heaven is. This is not necessarily a repeat of all of that. It is additional information to help you to know concretely where the kingdom of heaven is and all the different names it has been called by our forefathers, why it was hidden from us, to keep us in the dark, to keep us thinking this is just a myth or it's just a phrase, it doesn't really mean anything. Once you come into the realization of what the kingdom of heaven is, you will not be able to let it go. Remember, Hamashiach, Yohanan the Baptizer, all came preaching about the kingdom of heaven, warning us. The children of Yashrael, warning the southern kingdom first, because it started in Yarawashalam, in the land of Yashrael. They were warning us of the coming kingdom because we have to get ourselves ready physically, spiritually, right? In order to be able to enter into this kingdom. It is our final place of rest. So don't think that, I've heard about it before, Please bear with me and watch this segment, and I can guarantee you will learn a little bit more than what you've learned before. You know that light bulb moment? Okay, that is due to happen. Where is the kingdom of heaven located? We know it's in third heaven. Okay? But let's go through this once again. The kingdom of heaven is located in the heavenly realm, obviously. Heaven is made up of 7 levels. I've read in the Apocrypha that there may be as much as 10 levels. 7 or 10? We will not know until we get there. Remember, they took away all our books. They had to leave something behind. The Most High made sure you can't take it all. You can take most of it. And what was left, they kind of shift things around, change the names, took things out, put things in. And now we need, more than ever, the Ruach HaKodesh to help us to glean our own word. Can't just read the Bible and think it is all truth. Yes, it is truth. But which parts? Which parts is the truth? The names are not the truth. For example, Eve is not the correct name of our foremother. That's the Queen of Heaven. Since when did Passover become Easter? But it's in the Bible. Is that the truth? No, it's not. How about the name of our Savior? Is that the truth? No, it's not. There are so many things that they have changed or whitewashed to keep us as pagan worshipers. Now, the core of the word is truth. But you have to be able to glean, move stuff away in order to know which is the real truth and which is the lie painted with a little bit of truth. And the only way you will know what truth is having the spirit of truth, the Ruach HaKodesh, beside you, guiding you through the Bible. I'm not saying it's a book of lies. No. But they have incorporated their lies in our book. Yes, they have. That's why our Messiah, Hamashiach, released the Ruach HaKodesh, because he knew this was going to happen. Without the Ruach HaKodesh, we will not have been able to make it through this generation. We would not be able to see the light. All right? Okay, let's move on. I've read in the Apocrypha that there may be as much as 10 levels, 7 or 10. We will not know until we get there. It's not detrimental for us to know whether or not it is 7 or 10, as long as it's more than 3. Some people believe it's only 3. Cannot be only 3 heavens. Cannot be 3 heavens. However, the kingdom of heaven is a real place that was planted here on the earth in the very beginning of time. It was where Adam and Hawa lived before they transgressed the one law, not to eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Don't eat its fruit. It was called the Garden of Eden, but correctly Gan Odan in our language. Gan Odan also goes by several different titles. It is called paradise. Not the same as Abraham's bosom, where the righteous dead saints wait for their restoration, their resurrection to life. It is also called the mountain of Alahayam, the city of Alahayam, Mount Sayawan, the Holy of Holies, the sanctuary, the tabernacle, and at the renewal of the ages, the new Yarawashala. It is a city. Within it, we have his sanctuary. It is all his sanctuary. Remember, the tabernacle of meeting, the tent of meeting, the one that Masha constructed, was made up of 3 parts. So is the kingdom of heaven. You have the outer court, then you have the just inside the courtyard, and then you have the Holy of Holies. The Holy of Holies itself is where he dwells. That's his Holy of Holies. Second Hanawak, chapter 8, verse 1. And those men took me up from there. This is Hanawak or Enoch, and led me up to the 3rd heaven, and placed me there, and I looked down and saw what this place produces, and that it was so good that such as has never been known. So he's in 3rd heaven. No one can get out of the dome unless the Most High brings you out. All these rockets that you see going up into so-called space ain't going nowhere but into the sea. That's why they make an ark and head into the sea. Nothing can penetrate the dome. These devils have been trying to blast a hole in the dome for generations. Can't get out. And the day when that dome is rolled back like a scroll, see them scampering, looking for a hole to hide in. Anyways, verse 2. And I saw all the sweet flowering trees, and I saw their fruits, which were sweet smelling, and I saw all the foods that came from them. and that the food was bubbling with fragrant vapors. I can't imagine what that could be like. You know, sometimes when you go into the market and you smell the fruit, I mean real fruit, not the fruit that they pick green and ripen with gases and all manner of wickedness. That's what they do with the bananas and some of the other fruits. They claim, oh, it's safe to eat. After you gassed it, it's safe to eat. You pick the fruit green because you want to transport it, and maybe it's not meant to be transported. Every country has its indigenous fruits. But because of the greed of the people in this world, oh, let's sell our fruits to our neighboring countries. And in order to do that, you either have to freeze them or you have to pick them green. So when you go into the supermarkets now and you're walking around the aisles, you can't smell anything. You taste a tomato, it tastes like water. The lettuce has no taste. The cucumbers have no taste. None of the fruits have any taste. They have a little sweetness, a little sour because they're green on the inside. But if you grow your own fruits and vegetables and you taste them, the flavors that you get are unbelievable. And the smell of them, unbelievable. Every now and then you might smell something, like guavas have the strongest smell. And if you go into a marketplace where there are guavas, that's the first thing you're going to smell. You're not going to smell anything else. Same thing with mangoes. I love my mangoes. And how you can tell when a mango is sweet? When you can smell it. Same thing with cantaloupes. You pick up a cantaloupe, you're supposed to smell it even before you put it to your nose. Then you know it is a sweet cantaloupe. And anytime you pick up a cantaloupe and you can't smell it and you take it home and you taste it, it has no flavor. But in this place here on third heaven, Hanawat was smelling all the flavors of the fruits. What a wonderful place to be in. Verse 3, in the middle of the trees was the tree of life. There's only one place where the tree of life is located. And that's the Garden of Odan, the Garden of Eden. In that place where Adawan rests when he goes up, and I have up in blue. It's not necessary because where is he coming up from? Where is he coming up from? He dwells in seventh heaven. He comes down to third heaven. Where is he coming up from? So if we take that up out of there, and I left it in there because I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to manipulate the words to make it match what I'm saying. I leave it in there and I will say to you, the word up does not belong in there. Where is it coming up from? The earth? He goes up to paradise. And this tree is of indescribable goodness and fragrance. And you wonder why Adam and Hawa didn't even run to it to go and grab a piece of its fruit and live forever as holy, righteous individuals. No, the tree next to it was more attractive. The tree of knowledge was more attractive to them. Evil always feels more attractive to us, doesn't it? Always. And adorned more than anything existing. The tree of life is a beautiful tree, bearing 12 manner of fruits. Every month is a different fruit. All sides of its form were golden and brilliant red and fire-like. and it was completely covered, and it produced all fruits. Now, I used to live in Canada, British Columbia, and one of my favorite seasons is autumn, when all the maple trees turn that bright reddish orange. Sometimes on the same tree we have 3-4 different colors. If you're living on an avenue where there are all these maple trees, it is a sight to behold. If you manage to make it into the mountains and you see all the different trees with all the different colors, from yellow, golden yellow, to yellowish greenish, to brown, but not a dead brown, right? Bright orange, the reds, beautiful colors. And when the sun and the sky is blue and these colors are matched against the blue sky, it is something to behold. Beauty. Beauty. So this tree of life had fiery, brilliant red leaves. And can you imagine the fruit? If the fruit were in different colors, contrasting against those red leaves, what an amazing looking tree. And yet, Adam and Hawa walked past it to go and pick from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. We'll save you for later, tree of life. I remember, the kids would say, not my kids, the kids would say, when I offer them something, they actually, you give them lunch. And sometimes, especially if it's vegetables, they don't really want to eat the vegetables. They want to eat the good stuff. The sandwich, the mac and cheese, whatever the case may be. And when I ask them, hey, are you not going to finish your veggies? Oh, I'm saving it for later. Right? In other words, no, I don't want it. But this is their diplomatic way of saying, no, I don't want it. No, I'm saving it for later. I said, really? Well, you're not getting any treats until you eat that first. Right? All right. So this is the way how we think as people. We'll save it for later. All the good stuff we'll save for later. We'll go and indulge right now in the evil and the wickedness of this world. Thinking that we have later put down. There's no later put down for us, eh? Verse 4. Its root is in the garden at the earth's end. Verse 5. And paradise, this is the garden of Eden, resides between the spiritual and the physical. It is both spiritual and physical. Remember, Adam and Hawa, when they were first created, before they sinned, they were both spiritual and physical. Okay? That's why the Garden of Eden is both spiritual and physical. Verse 6. And 2 springs come out, which send forth honey and milk. We keep hearing about land flowing with milk and honey. And their springs send forth oil and wine. Again, when you go through the different scriptures, one that quickly comes to mind in Revelation, hurt not the oil or the wine, or the wheat, or the barley. Oil and wine, they were used in our festivals. Oil and wine is very important to us. So are the honey and the milk. All important. But these 4 came forth from one river. Remember, when the Garden of Odan was created, there was one river that was split into four heads, four other rivers, four main rivers that flowed on this earth. This is that same river. Okay? But this river, unlike the river that was left behind, the Tigris, the Euphrates, the Pisgah, and I forgot the other one's name. We know where the Tigris is. We know where the Euphrates is, and the Euphrates is drying up right now. Everything is happening at a rapid pace. These four are used in the Garden of Odan to keep the trees watered. Just like the four rivers that remained on the earth, two have disappeared. We don't know where those two disappeared to. One is drying up. I haven't really heard anything about the Tigris, but the Euphrates is mentioned in the book of Revelation that it will dry up to make way for those from that Gog Magog can come in and do their wickedness. But this is the original river. You see, he takes up what belongs to him, that he has given to us. He removes it from off the earth to stop Satan from contaminating it. Yes, you can contaminate the Tigris and the Euphrates. You can either change, I think they changed the names of the other two, so we don't know where they are or what they are. They might have even had dried up. Everything has changed over time because of all the earthquakes and the different changes in the topography of the earth, and all the fake maps that they've put out there. We can't even say that they've put it on the map, put them on the map. They created the maps. They're the ones who tells us what the continent of North America looks like, what the continent of South America looks like, what the continent of Africa looks like. They're the ones who tells us these things. And if they lie about everything else, why would they not lie about the maps? So where exactly are these four rivers? We know where two are. Getting back to the Apocrypha. So these are the same four rivers that flow from one main river. And that one main river comes from the throne of the Most High. Yes, it does. So they flow quietly around and go down into the paradise of Odan between the mutable, which means changeable, and the eternal. All right? Those are the four qualities of paradise: spiritual, physical, mutable, and eternal. And there they go forth along the earth and have a circular flow, even as other elements. You see, we will not know the truth about how this earth and the dome, how it all connects to each other. Do you know why? Because every single country in this world have made a pact to keep us from the borders of this earth. You see, they've sold our parents and the parents before, and even this generation, the lie about the ball earth. We're all sitting on a ball earth spinning 1,100 miles an hour on an axis, and then spinning through space and spinning around the sun, which is utter nonsense. And gravity keeps us on the ball. Utter nonsense. Why do you think a ball doesn't have corners? And that's the very first lie that you need to get rid of if you want to believe that there is a third heaven and the kingdom of heaven. I mean, you need to get rid of all the lies, don't get me wrong. But you need to reformat your brain. All the things that they've been teaching us in their institutions called schools and colleges and universities, take it with a grain of salt. A grain of salt or half a grain of salt if you could. They've been teaching us and indoctrinating us for generations. But thanks be to the Most High, He has wakened some of us up to realize the truth. It doesn't make sense to be sitting on a ball. So get rid of that idea. No ball earth. No blue marble floating in space. There's no space. No aliens. The only aliens that we will ever see on this earth, not we, this earth will see on its land are called fallen angels. We are not going to be here when all that starts to happen. But they will say that they're aliens because they want to keep pushing the narrative about space. Every picture that you've seen of space is a computer-generated image. Take a look at their so-called satellites that are supposed to be floating in space. Cardboard and aluminum foil. Cardboard and aluminum foil. There have not been any Mars landing. None of that. No moon landing. The moon is a disk. So is the sun. And they're all beneath the dome. Along with all the stars. That's first heaven. All the things that we've been taught, we have to reformat. Toss that nonsense into the garbage in order to embrace the truth. Because if you try to embrace the truth with that nonsense in your brain, there's going to be conflict. Okay. Verse 8, and there is no unfruitful tree here, and every place is Barak, blessed. Every tree in the garden of Eden bears fruit. Verse 9, 300 angels who are very bright are there to keep the garden. And with incessant sweet singing, with voices which are never silent, serve Adawan throughout all the hours of days. 300 angels are in the garden of Eden, attending to it. Isn't that wonderful? Absolutely magnificent. And they're there and they're singing, sweet singing to Adawan, getting it ready for us when we come. Verse 10, and I said, how sweet is this place? And those men said to me, you have to go into chapter 9 of the second book of Hanawak. Verse 1, this is the response. Oh, this place, O Hanawak, is prepared for the righteous, who endure all manner of offense from those that exasperate their souls. Do you feel exasperated by the foolishness that you have been hearing from our brethren? Forget about the Gentiles. They're meant to exasperate our souls, and we can handle them. We can tolerate them because they're ignorant. But how about our own brethren? All right? They're the ones who will exasperate our souls. Especially when you're trying to tell them, hey bro, hey sis, you're going down the wrong path. And they want to curse you for it. And they're offended by you. All right? who avert their eyes from iniquity. In other words, they want to walk in the commandments. When you walk in the commandments, when you walk in the law, the statutes and the judgments, you avert yourselves from committing iniquity because you're walking in obedience and make righteous judgments. These are the righteous ones that make righteous judgments. There's only one way for you to make a righteous judgment is by following, upholding, and obeying the judgments of Allah, who give bread to the hungry. It doesn't have to be real bread, but you feed the hungry. You have a brethren, and you know this brother or this sister is suffering. They have no money. And there's another brother or sister who has. But you avert your eyes from the need of a brother or sister because you have to keep for yourself in case, you have a need later on. That's not love. You give to help the brothers and the sisters, and you give unconditionally, not expecting a return. Because you're building up your treasures in heaven when you do that. I've seen brothers and sisters that have money. It's not only even about money. It's about your ability to help someone. But they don't want to help you. Not even with a piece of information. You just call them, hey, I just want to ask you a question about X, Y, and Z. They can't help you. Or they lie to you. Oh, I don't know. When you know that they know. This is not brotherly love. And I've observed this from many of our people. Going on and cover the naked with clothing and raise up the fallen. This is the reason why I'm doing this, to help my brethren. If you feel like you can't find the answers to all these questions, you go to these people's websites or their channels or their ministries, and somehow you cannot connect the dots. This is what I'm here to do, to help you connect the dots. That's why all my videos interlock with each other, to give you a grand picture of salvation and what you need to do to get there. It may not be something you want to do, but if you want salvation, you have no choice but to do it. And do it joyfully too, because if you're going to do it half-heartedly, that's not going to help you. I'm doing this at my own cost. I want no one's money. The Father pays me himself. Plus, I'm storing up my treasures in heaven. If you have a brother or sister that needs help, give them the money and say, Hadassah Bat Saiwan says, bless you. That is what you can do for me. Help your fellow brethren. Moving on. And help the injured orphans and who walk without fault. These are the righteous remnant who walk without fault before the face of Adawan. Why? Because we have purpose, and I'm going to include myself. Yes, We have purpose in our hearts to walk in obedience to Adawan, to Alahayam, to Yahweh. Because I've seen what my forefathers have done for generations, and the vexation that they brought upon my Heavenly Father, my Abba. I don't want to do that anymore. All the different reasons why they want to break His covenant and disobey His commandments, going after other idols which haven't really worked out for them, kept them in slavery, impoverished. The tail of society, I don't want that for me. So I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go in the way of obedience. His word said XYZ. I'm going to do XYZ. Until He tells me, okay, here's what you need to do for X, here's what you need to do for Y, and here's what you need to do for Z. Let Him instruct me now. So, because I want to walk without fault, without sin. That's what that phrase means. Without sin. You're walking in righteousness before the face of Adawan. That means master. And serve Him alone. And for them is prepared this place, meaning the Garden of Eden, paradise. This is where we are going to rest. This is our eternal rest. Once we get there, we're not leaving. Yes, we're going to be on our white horses coming back to the earth at the end of the age, but we're coming home. Because the Garden of Eden, paradise, the kingdom of heaven, what the name you choose to call it, will be here on the earth again, and that's where we will all be dwelling for eternity. Because we do not understand the spiritual realms of heaven, we are quick to dismiss any information that we have never heard before. Just because you have not heard it before does not make it a lie. When Hamashiach came ministering to the people, even though they have never heard the way how He spoke, the teachings, the lessons that He gave, people didn't know. They've not heard teaching like that. But they gravitated towards Him because the truth impacted them right where it needed to be, in the heart. And not only did it impact them, but it made them free. It didn't burden them with more laws and things that they need to do in order to be righteous before the Pharisees, but it released them from their prison. It enlightened their eyes. So now they can walk in freedom. This is what truth does. So just because you've never heard it before, let the Spirit be your guide. And yet at the same time, just because everyone is talking about it does not make that piece of information true. I've heard a lot of things throughout the years, many years. It's all lies. Everyone's talking about the rapture. It's a lie. Everyone, well, I shouldn't say everyone, I'm exaggerating. Many people are talking about the rapture, but the rapture is a lie. The rapture is our story of us being taken up in chariots. But the church has adopted this idea, changed it, and made it a rapture where they're going to vanish into thin air, leaving their clothes behind. And if you look and see who are the people talking about this rapture, it's those white folks, the church, the ones who created the church. How many other pieces of information that's floating around there even let's look at our brethren now. They're speaking and teaching about different things. And this person would take it and run with it and add a little bit more of something to it. They have no clue what they're talking about. But because you are hearing it from all these different sources, you think it has to be the truth. But somehow it doesn't sit well with you. You have to let the Spirit be your guide. Let Him tell you what is truth and what is not. If you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, then you have a big problem. You need Him. The scriptures will not lie to us because we have been indoctrinated in schools, churches, and other learning institutions. That's what they were placed here on the earth for. To indoctrinate us with their lies. And not to mention the social media that has popped up of late. Unheard of information could trigger a stampede effect with some people. They want to run from it. But that's all right. It wasn't meant for you. It's better for them to go than to try to fight you. Right? Let them go their way. If it was meant for them, then it will stay. Remember when Hamashiach started talking about eating my flesh and drink my blood? All the all the disciples that were with him, they all left except for the 12. They couldn't handle the truth because it wasn't meant for them. They're not ready. These people are not ready for higher knowledge. This is higher knowledge. And this is not about me tooting my own horn or patting myself on the back. Because like you, I'm learning too. But my joy is to pass on what I've learned to you. This is what you call higher learning. This is not milk anymore. This is meat. And many of our people, they don't have any teeth to chew this meat. And that's why they will spit it out. Can't chew it. Although much of our books have been either seized, destroyed, or corrupted, Abba still left enough breadcrumbs for us to follow. He left breadcrumbs. They couldn't throw away everything. They couldn't destroy everything. These are the precepts that cause the seed, the knowledge of the kingdom of heaven to grow within us. Seek and you shall find. Satan knows that once we understand what it is, then he has failed in his plot to corrupt or to deceive us. Satan does not want us to know about the kingdom of heaven. That's why he sent his minions out to destroy Yochanan, John the Baptizer, and then later our Messiah. But Satan cannot do anything unless he is given the permission to do it. When it was time for these two ministers, these two men to leave this earth, then Satan was given the okay to go ahead and do his bit. Remember what Hamashiach said to Judas. He said, the thing that you do, go and do it quickly. He gave Satan the permission to go and deceive him. Using Judas. He gave him permission. He couldn't do it otherwise. Okay, let's move on. Satan knows that once we understand what it is that he has failed in his plot to corrupt or to deceive us, it would be virtually impossible for him to touch us at that point. Take a look at the apostles. Once they were endowed with great power from on high, nothing that Satan tried moved them to fear or to abandon their beliefs, no matter how much they were persecuted. They were imprisoned. They were in chains. They were whipped. All manner of evil they did against the apostles and the disciples, and did they give in? No. They kept on. And they stuck right through to the very end, even to the point of death. Death had no fear in them. Death had no hold on them because they knew they were going to pass from this life to another. So they had no fear of death. I know people that are afraid of dying, and yet they claim that they're believers. And how can you be a believer and you're afraid of dying? Does not make sense. Who are you believing in that you're afraid of dying? I know who I believe in, and I want to see him. So if it takes death to see him, I'm willing to go there. Who are you believing in that you have such great fear of death? No wonder people ran out there and they got the jibby jab because that fear of dying pushed them to get something that they're not supposed to have. But they took it willingly. Okay. They stuck right through to the very end, even to the point of death. This is the awesome work of Ruach HaKodesh in our lives. Once we get to that point of no return, spiritually speaking, and we have made it across that certain threshold where our faith has blossomed tremendously, and we begin to soar like eagles. When you get to that place spiritually where no matter the threats that Satan send you, oh, I'm going to take your life. Go ahead. You're doing me a favor. Oh, I'm going to send this person to say this against you. Oh, fine. I'm not going to respond. Or if you do, you respond with a word from the Most High, and that will shut them up. Oh, I'm going to cause you to lose your job. So what? What's the job? When the Father is ready, He'll open another doorway for me to walk right through to get another job. And it's going to be better than this one. Oh, I'm going to take your house away from you, your mortgage. That's fine. I don't mind living in a tent. Well, whenever he comes to you, it's okay because you already set in your mind. You have an option. And the Ruach HaKodesh will show you what those options are. And all the things that he threatened you about are all the things that you use money to buy. Mammon. That's why I said in the previous message, Mammon is a god. It's an idol. And once you get rid of that idol, then Satan has no hold on you when it comes to the things in this world. Even your life matters nothing. He can't take righteousness away from you. He can't take holiness away from you. But he will try to steer you away from the light and into his darkness and eating corrupt food. That way, You yield up righteousness and you yield up holiness because you're consuming his corrupt food. The breadcrumbs that Abba had left behind for us to follow was by design. Remember, the way is a narrow way, and only a few will find it. The broad way, everyone's going to find the broad way. It's so broad you can't miss it. But the narrow way is so narrow, only a few will find it. And when you're on the narrow way, let me warn you again, I've said this in other videos. Don't think you're on the wrong path because you're not seeing anyone with you. It is only for one person at a time. Only one person on this path at a time. And while you're on this path, you're not going to see anyone in front of you, and you're not going to see anyone behind you. But don't think for 1 minute that you're on the wrong path. Satan will bring that thought to you to get you to change direction, to jump on the other path where there are many other people, even your friends or your family. Hey, come over here. We're having fun over here. You know, this is not a time to have fun. This is a time to battle for your life. When we get into the kingdom of heaven, we will have all the fun we can't even handle. We'll have everything we need. But right now, this is time for work. And yes, it hurts to cut, to sever family members and friends in order to maintain on this path. Remember what Hamashiach said. All those, his apostles asked him, what do we need? We have left everything to come and serve you. What are we going to get in return? And Hamashiach told them that all of you, that whoever left their brethren, meaning their brothers, their friends, their sisters, their mothers, their fathers, their houses, their lands, all the things of this earth to come and serve him, they will get it back 100%, 100-fold. And they'll be able to enter into eternal life, into the kingdom of heaven. Remember, he said that. That's in part 4. When he was addressing the rich young man. He has everything established for us. But Satan is going to send the storms and all manner of things against us to stop us from pressing on. But the more you press on, the stronger you get. The kingdom of heaven is so close. Just like the parables, not everyone will get it. Not everyone was meant to understand what is to come. Not everyone's going to understand about the kingdom of heaven. I've never heard anyone teaching about the kingdom of heaven like the Ruach HaKodesh is teaching us. Only those with eyes to see and ears to hear. Remember what Hamashiach said. Only those that can see and spiritually hear will understand what the Spirit is saying. Remember, Hamashiach says, those with ears to hear. Those of you who have ears to hear what the Spirit, what Ruach is saying. The rapture theory is a contaminated version of what we are expecting to happen when we are taken to the kingdom of heaven, which is paradise. Because the church is responsible for this theory, many of us awakened from our slumber will quickly oppose it. That's what Satan is expecting to happen. Okay, well, if they are awakened, they'll throw out the theory because it sounds a lot like the rapture. But it's not the rapture. Many of our brethren in error will quickly throw out the baby with the bathwater because of all their erroneous teachings, including that of the rapture, meaning the teachings of the church. The rapture has to do with the church being harpazo away. They love to use that word. Oh, we're going to be seized away or snatched away into heaven. One minute someone is there and the next they vanish like their clothes left behind. This is what the church calls the rapture, and many Christians are looking forward to escaping the tribulation and the judgments of Al-Hayam by being raptured into heaven. If you doubt me, go and in the YouTube search bar, type rapture and see how many people, oh my, talk about this rapture every week. They're to be raptured. Every week. And some of them, the date comes and it passes and they're still here. Yes, guys, I know we're still here, but you know what? I think I got the date wrong. It is meant to be next week. In 7 days, we'll be out of here. 7 days come, they're still here. I know, guys. Let's not lose heart. Maybe it is in another 7 days. Oh my. It is comedy at best. All right? Because they're wanting to escape the judgment that is coming for them. Remember, their forefathers had us in slavery. And if we had to go through our time of judgments, why will they escape theirs? No one will escape judgment. We had ours first, so we are going out first. The northern kingdom, they're going to have to endure some of the judgments because of what they've done. They're not going to escape either. But if they hold on to the end, they'll make it into their land. But the rest of the nations, oh yeah, it's coming for them. There are many issues with this theory, but at the core of it is our truth. That's the problem. All right? At the core of the rapture is our truth. It's like everything else that they've done. They've taken what belongs to us. They couldn't destroy it. So they kind of like twist and turn it and make it seem like it is their doctrine. So let me explain. The righteous remnant of the southern kingdom will be taken away from the earth into third heaven, where the kingdom of heaven or paradise is. This is the core of our truth that has been stolen by the church. And when I said church, the core of the church, the foundation of what we call the church is the Roman Catholic Church. All religions of this earth came from the Roman Catholic Church. And at the end, the Pope is going to declare, guess what, you guys, you Pentecostals, you evangelicals, all you Methodists and Baptists, Calvinists, guess what? You have been a Catholic all along. You just have slightly different doctrines, that's all, to make you think you're different. But you're all Catholic. Anyways, this is the core of our truth that has been stolen by the church, distorted, and contaminated with the rapture theory. It is the outer layers of lies that cover our truth, which lies at the core of this theory. So let's look at some of the outer layers. So the inner layer, the core, is the fact that people will be taken from this earth. But they've been lied to by the powers that be, that is the church that is going to be raptured away from the earth. But it is not the church that is going to be raptured. It is the southern kingdom of Yashara'al that will be taken up in chariots. The church teaches that all Christians will be raptured into heaven. This is a lie. That's why they have this sinner's prayer. Once you've said the sinner's prayer, you're saved. You're going to make it into heaven. Only Yashrael, namely the southern kingdom, will be taken away into third heaven where paradise is. No other nation or people will be taken there. So even if you're married to someone, all right? If you're married to someone who's outside of our tribe, outside of the southern kingdom, they're not going to make it either. No mixed multitudes will be allowed entry into the kingdom because it is not meant for them. Only for the righteous remnant of the southern kingdom. So if you're in a mixed marriage, I don't want to tell you what to do, but I can recommend to you, if you want what belongs to you, you need to give up on that marriage. There's no exception for any other nation to come in to our inheritance, except for the ones that submit themselves after the tribulations of the day, the judgments, and they still submit to the Most High. Yes, He will give them a portion of our inheritance on the earth. But for us to escape, and the reason why we are escaping the judgments that are coming on this earth is because we have endured our judgments already. Think about it. All the persecutions that we've been through throughout the generations, the enslavement, everything we've endured. And this generation have said enough is enough. We're returning to the Most High. We're defiling our forefathers' idols. We want nothing to do with what they've practiced before. We're returning to the Most High with all our heart. It is for those ones that the kingdom of heaven is prepared for. No mixed multitude and their children. Not even your children will make it. Your mixed children. Okay, let's move on. Even if you're married to an African, no other nation, doesn't matter if they look like us. Some people focus only on the white folks. But even if they look like us, but they're not of our lineage, you're not welcome into the kingdom of heaven. The church teaches that the Christians will vanish, leaving their clothes behind, which is another lie. So I guess they'll be naked, right? When the chariots come, which is I'm going to speak more about this later, we will be wearing our clothes. Just like Hanawa and Alaya, they were wearing their clothes, right? But our clothes will be removed when we get there, and we'll be given garments of light. So let's see what happened to Hanawa when he was taken up to third heaven. Second Hanawa, chapter 22, verse 8. And Yahweh said to Kaal, which is Michael, the archangel, go and take Hanawa and remove his earthly garments and anoint him with my sweet ointment and put him into the garments of my glory, my light. Hallelujah. And Kaal did as Yahweh told him. He anointed me and dressed me, and the appearance of that ointment is more than the great light. And his ointment is like sweet dew, and its smell mild, shining like the sun's rays. And I looked at myself, and I was transformed into one of his glorious ones. Hallelujah. You want to give that up for these earthly things? The church teaches that Christians will be raptured before the tribulation starts. However, there are several other theories where some believe the rapture will happen in the middle of the tribulation or at the end of it. Again, more lies. They have all these different post, pre, mid-tribs. The birth pangs have already started. The first 4 seals have been broken. The southern kingdom, Yahweh, which is made up of the 2.5 tribes, will be regathered from the 4 corners of the earth where we have been scattered. The northern kingdom will remain on the earth to endure their portion of the judgments from the time of our ascension up to the 4th trumpet judgment. During this time, all their rebels will be purged from amongst them while they are on their second exodus in the wilderness. They too will be protected from the rest of the judgments and the wrath of Allah Hayam, as they will be kept safe in our land called Yashraal. However, it is during their time of judgments called Yaakob's troubles that they will have to make their choice as to whom they will serve. The idols that they were worshiping or the true and living Allah Hayam. And there will be some of our brethren left behind that will turn their hearts to Allah Hayam once they realize they were wrong. They're going to go through Yaakov's troubles, Jacob's troubles. They're going to die. But the good news is that they will experience the resurrection to life. They will live again in the 1,000-year reign of Hamashiach. They missed the chariots, but they still have an opportunity to live again. The southern kingdom were still in their land, Yashraal, when Hamashiach lived as a man and ministered to them, our forefathers. Many of our brethren were exposed to his teachings and that of his apostles. Although we were sold into slavery and began to worship our slave masters' pagan gods, we still had the gospel inscribed on our spiritual DNA, which became activated when Ruach HaKodesh woke us up. Our forefathers were the slaves, but we, their offspring, grew up knowing nothing about who we really were until the awakening happened. We were torn away from our land for over 400 years, whereas the northern kingdom had been away since 721 BC. The northern kingdom have been away from our land, our culture, our language, and our worship for a much, much longer time than we have been. They have adopted other religions, and whether it's Christianity or Judaism, they're still a far cry removed from the truth, and they're still worshiping idols. Our ascension will be their wake-up call, because all eyes will see us when we go. They will see him in the clouds, waiting for us. And the time of Yaakov's troubles will serve to drive them out of the lands of their enemies, sending them into the wilderness, into the second Exodus. One thing triggers the next. So our ascension triggers them to start their Exodus. We, the southern kingdom, have endured our tribulation and judgments throughout our hundreds of years of slavery. Now it's time for us to go home. Those from our kingdom who are not willing to give up all to receive this pearl will not make it. Meaning they're all going to die. Now some will die in righteousness. Sorry, let me change that. Many will perish and end up in the lake of fire, and a few will be martyred. meaning that they will come back to life. The southern kingdom is on the cusp of being regathered and taken away. We will not see the sixth seal broken, as it is a time of great destruction. During the time of judgment for the northern kingdom, they will finally realize that their gods that they worship can do nothing to save them. And they will either have to submit to the beast system or submit to Allah. Many of our northern kingdom brethren will perish because of unbelief and rebellion, just like many of our southern kingdom brethren will be left behind and perish for the same reasons. These are some of the false teachings of the church, where they took our truth and layered it with their lies. On first glance, an awakened brethren may look at their rapture theory and throw it out, because you need to look deeper and see the truth that has been hidden from us. Our forefathers knew the chariots were coming. That's why they have this old spiritual gospel song called "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, coming to carry me home." What do you think they were singing about? All right. There was another one, but it's on my video called Chariots, the very first one, part 1 of the Chariots of Yashraal. But our forefathers have been singing songs about the chariots coming to bring them home. They knew it. It's only us, the youngsters, that want to listen to the hip hop and the R&B and all this garbage gospel music. We don't want to listen to the spiritual songs anymore. They're old fashioned. They're old time singing. We don't want to hear those kind of songs. We want the beat. We want the rhythm, right? And then you miss the messages. But those messages came through for generations. That's why some of us, speaking of people in my age group, remember the one-door little Nazarene churches with the tambourines, and our great-grandmothers and grandfathers and our grandparents all beating the tambourines and singing these old spiritual songs. And ingrained them in us. But we now, when we have our children, we moved away from the spiritual songs, and we moved into songs by like hill songs and all the different ones, singing about their Jesus. As our forefathers sang about the Jesus as well. But the song called "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot" has no Jesus in it. But it's telling you what's coming to bring us home. All right. If you doubt me, go and look for that song. Listen to it. Look at the lyrics, and you'll see what our forefathers had created. They created that song to pass on a message to us today. You need to stop listening to that R&B garbage. All those music, they have a root in witchcraft. Their rhythm is witchcraft, and even their lyrics, they're all witchcraft. Okay. Many nations were confederate, and still are, to our enslavement. They have to endure their punishment for the brutish way in which they treated us. Treated us like animals. In fact, they treated us worse than animals. It does not matter that the original slave masters are dead. Their descendants are not dead and must pay accordingly. They got to pay with their blood. Just like we, the present time offspring of our forefathers who sinned and were punished, we were born in that punishment, enduring their persecution that befell us. And just as we had to endure due to the transgressions of our forefathers, so must everyone else, born from the nations that enslaved us and those that treated us badly. Do you know there are some nations that, okay, they didn't treat us badly, but they had nothing to do with us? Either way, all nations will have to endure, some more than others. Some he's just going to wipe off the earth. He's going to wipe out their existence completely. Not even an offspring. Not even one offspring from some of these nations. They're all going to be cleanly wiped off the earth. Which I have explained. Some will have to endure. All nations will have to endure, some more than others, which I have explained above, to cause them to make a choice as to whom they will serve. And I will repeat this. Another reason why they have to endure. When they look at us, we look to them like slaves, right? When they look at our Messiah, will they want to serve him, knowing that he looks like us? When you look at their Messiah looks like them, right? All right, enough said. Many Christians today are happy to serve their gods because he resembles them. But will they be willing to serve Hamashiach if he looks like us, a Negro? That's a good question. And I just said it. Unlike the rapture theory, we will not simply vanish into thin air. We will in fact be taken from this earth in chariots of fire, much like Hanawak and Alaya were taken. Now, does this seem impossible to you that this will happen? Why does it seem impossible? You believe in aliens? You believe that there are planets out there with life? That to me sounds incredible. Too incredible to believe that the Most High will create us and other beings on other planets. As far as I know, from reading the Bible, he only created Earth with people living on it. But you will watch television and let television be your map, be your guide, be your book to tell you what to believe in. I know people that do not believe in the Most High, but they believe in aliens. They believe that there are planets out there and that the aliens will come and take us to another planet. They believe in a whole bunch of garbage. But they can't believe what is written in the Bible because a man wrote this book. So who wrote the theory about aliens? My, like, could anything be more foolish? Take a look at scriptures. Chariots of fire have been seen by the prophets and they have been documented. I'm not speaking about a figment of my imagination, not even a vision. I'm coming to you straight up from the word of the Most High and the historical books called the Apocrypha. That's all. All I'm doing is putting it all together in a nice little package, a nice picture, so that you can see how they all connect with each other to tell you what is happening, what is about to happen for you if you obey. That's all. That is all. They were also documented with whirlwind of fire, which is associated with these chariots of fire. This is the only way alive out of the dome to enter into third heaven, where Gan Odan, paradise, or the kingdom of heaven is. Only way out. When you die, you don't go to third heaven, you go to fourth heaven. Okay. We know that Hanawat was translated and he never saw death. He was taken up by chariots of fire like Alaya was taken up. So let's look at those scriptures. Bara'a Shayaf, the book of Genesis, chapter 5, verse 24. And Hanawat walked with Alahayam, and he was not, for Alahayam took him. Now, if you didn't read the Apocrypha, you would know that he was taken in a chariot of fire, right? Or chariots of fire. From reading the Apocrypha, the books of Hanawak, we know that he was taken to third heaven, where Gan Odan is. Alaya is there with him. These are the only two people from men that are currently living in Gan Odan. They didn't die in order to make it there. They were living. That's why Gan Odan, third heaven, the kingdom of heaven, is both physical, spiritual, and physical. All right? It is not a place for the dead. It's a place for the living. They didn't die in order to make it there. They were righteous men, and that qualified them. They were righteous. So contrary to Christianese dogma that tells us that everyone has to die, I remember hearing that, like, oh yeah, everyone has to die. But yet when you read the Bible, and especially the book of Revelation, there's no point of time ever that all of mankind was wiped out. And like I'm saying this to you now, and I haven't done my studies yet, I haven't put it together yet. That's what I meant. I've done the studies, but I haven't put it together yet. The book of Revelation. Contrary to what people think, there are not 7 years left on this earth. There's 7 years according to his prophetic calendar, but they're not the same as earthly years. All right? Those 7 years can be extended. And they will be extended. There are gaps in between those years, meaning that the events that are going to take place, they're not going to be one right after the other, meaning that they're going to be touching each other. There's going to be some space, a gap, to allow the earth to replenish. Because if the Most High does not do that, yes, mankind will be wiped off the face of the earth. But as you read the book of Revelation, you keep hearing about these millions and millions of people in the army. And they're not all human. I know. And even at the time of the millennial reign of Hamashiach, the humans that are left are going to come to worship him in Yahuwah. So there will be people left on the earth, even after the great tribulation. All those earthquakes, all those things that are happening, islands moving out of its place and mountains sinking and new mountains coming up. All these things are going to happen. People are going to perish, but some are still going to live. And they're going to multiply. He's not going to stop them from multiplying. That's why, and let me say this, why many people have rejected the jibby jibby jab jab, because it has been placed inside of them to reject it. And the ones who took it are the ones that have been cut off by the Most High. And the ones that didn't take it are the ones that are going to remain on the earth. Yes, some people are still going to die, but many of those ones that have not taken it, they're going to multiply and replenish this earth. The other nations, the Gentiles that I'm speaking about, our people, we're safe. We will be multiplying like rabbits, right? We'll be multiplying. But I'm talking about the other nations now. This earth will never be empty of people. The numbers will diminish for a little while and then like that, poof. And remember, because time has changed, pregnancy is no longer going to be 9 months. Between 3 to 4 months, women will be giving birth. And I've covered that in a previous lesson. I believe in a part 2 or part 1 of this series. But I've covered that. All right? Okay, let's move on. They didn't die. Okay. So, contrary to the Christianese dogma that tells us that everyone has to die, we know that's a lie. They lied to us. Big time. Big time. And there are so many of our brethren that are stuck. I'm talking about the Southern Kingdom. They are stuck in these churches because they got titles. Their slave masters throw a couple titles at them and they feel so happy about it. Like, hey, I finally arrived. I'm finally an important person. But they've been given a title to keep them still so that they can keep the other brethren still. And not ask any questions. Just do as you're told. This goes against the word of Al-Hayam. Alright? When you study the scriptures, and you study with the Ruach HaKodesh, you realize that all these things that you were taught in the churches were lies. Damage control then is used to tell us that Hanawak and Aliyah will return as the two witnesses in Revelation. And then they will die, proving their theory as correct. Well, yes, they're both going to come back. They're the two prophets that are going to come back to bring judgment in the land of Yasha'al, to start the cleanup process before the northern kingdom arrives. Remember, a lot of innocent blood has been shed in that land. And we have foreigners living there. So you got to clean house. Destroy all those buildings. And the few that are left going to scamper and go back to their own countries. And then the land will have a small period of time of rest until the northern kingdom comes in. We will not all see death in order to make it into the kingdom. Absolutely not. As the kingdom is not meant for the dead, but for the living. Why did Al-Hayam need these two men in Ganodan? Because Al-Hayam created Ganodan as a resting place for himself and his creation man. He needed two people to replace Adam and Hawa until we come. The water of life is there and it will remove any residue of our earthly sin nature to make us as Adam and Hawa were before they transgressed. That's what the water, that pure water, is for. To remove every inkling of that sin nature. And if you watch my video, the 144,000 first fruits of Yahweh, you'll see why and who these 144,000 will be and where they're coming from. Second Malayakayam Kings, Malakaya, excuse me, Malakayam. Sometimes I get so tongue-tied, the words, right? Especially if I'm not repeatedly saying the word over and over. And especially if I have other things in my brain going on. So it's Malakayam. Okay? 2 Kings chapter 2 verse 11. And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, and behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them asunder, and Aliyah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. Now this is when Aliyah and Alayasha'o, which is Elisha, were walking together. Alright? Book of Yashar, chapter 3, verse 36. When the kings returned, they caused a census to be taken in order to know the number of remaining men that went with Hanawak. And it was on the seventh day that Hanawak, who is Enoch, ascended into the heaven in a whirlwind with horses and chariots of fire. And on the eighth day, all the kings that had been with Hanawak sent to bring back the number of men that were with Hanawak in that place from which he ascended into heaven. Bara'a Shayath, Genesis 2, verse 4. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created. It's not written as heavens in the Bible. Again, you got to be smart, all right? And you got to let the Spirit guide you. In the day that Yahweh Al-Hayam made the earth and the heavens, and every plant of the field before it was in the ground, in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For Yahweh Al-Hayam had not caused it to rain upon the earth, because there was not a man to till the ground. Now, do we need to till the ground in the kingdom of heaven? No. You meaning to attend to it. He needed two people to attend to his garden, to be there, because that's who he created it for. But a mist went up from the earth and watered the whole face of the earth so that things don't grow out of order. He kept it watered until man came and attended to his garden. Shayaf 2, chapter 2, verse 7, and Yahweh al-Hayam formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And Yahweh al-Hayam planted a garden eastward in Odan, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made Yahweh al-Hayam to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Odan to water the garden, and from there it was parted and became 4 heads. Remember, we read about the 4 heads: the honey, the milk, the oil, and the wine. All right? We know that the Bible was tampered with because names were changed to get us to worship and invoke devils instead of worshiping Allah-Hayam. Adam and Hawa were created in a place called Elda. Gan Odan was planted eastward in Elda. I know it said here eastward in Odan. Again, I believe that they have changed that, because Elda is nowhere written in this scripture. And it's easy to switch that 4-letter word and replaced it with another 4-letter word from Elda to Odan. But they were created in in Elda. There's only one garden called Odan or Eden. Allah-Hayam needed 2 substitutes to tend to his garden, so he chose Hanawa and Alaya. And when we arrive, then they'll come and they'll do their judgments on the earth. First book of Adam and Hawa, chapter 1, verse 2. And to the north of the garden there is a sea of water, clear and pure to the taste, unlike anything else, so that through the clearness one may look into the depths of the earth. It's going to be looking through a mirror, a glass mirror, like seriously to the core of the earth. And if a man washes himself in it, he becomes perfectly clean and perfectly white, even if he were dark. Now listen, you have to understand the language that's being spoken here. He's not going to become a Caucasian, a white man. Yes, we are dark, but we're not going to change from being a Negro to a Caucasian. That's not what this means. We were dark because of sin nature. Sin nature made us dark. It transformed us from the glory that we once had, our forefathers once had, like Adam and Hawa, which made them light and bright and white, purity. Okay? So that whiteness is light, purity. Even if he were dark. And Allah-Hayam created that sea of his own good pleasure, for he knew what would become of the man he would make. So let me pause there, because something just popped into my brain. We are a reflection of the Most High. Now when Yawachanan, John, saw Hamashiach in his glorified form, was he white? No, his skin was a burnished brass, the color of a Negro when he is lighted up. All right? So that confirms that we are not going to change to look white. We will look like light. All right, let me go on. So after still verse 4, after he had left the garden because of his transgression, men would be born. All right, let me start from the beginning. Verse 4. And Allah created that sea of his own good pleasure, for he knew what would become of the man. He knew what Adam was going to do. The man that he would make, so that after he had left the garden because of his transgression, men would be born in the earth. Among them are righteous ones who will die, whose souls Allah would raise at the last day, when all of them will return to their flesh, bathe in the water of that sea, and repent of their sins. But it's not only meant for them. That will happen at the ending of the age, at the beginning of the 1,000-year reign. But us that are living we will be able to freely bathe in this water once we get to the kingdom of heaven. But when Allah caused Adam to go out of the garden, he did not place him on the border of it northward. This was so that he and Hawa would not be able to go near to the sea of water, where they could wash themselves in it and be cleansed from their sins, and erase the transgression they had committed, so that they could no longer be reminded of it in the thought of their punishment. So you see why when I say bathing in this water is going to completely remove our sin nature, so we're no longer in the image of darkness. We now have the image of the Most High. Yes, we are all born in sin, no matter how righteous we are. If you're a righteous person, speaking of someone who is following the commandments of the Most High and doing all that he says to do, when you give birth to a child, that child will be born in sin, with a sin nature. But this last cleansing act will completely remove that sin nature, so that we are no longer dark. We now have pure light coming from within and shining out. All right? Abba could not, and it's proven here in 5. If they wash themselves, they'll be cleansed from their sins, erase the transgression that they committed, and no longer be reminded of it. And that's another awesome thing of bathing in this water. We will no longer be reminded of all the evils that we do. Everything that's evil will be completely taken away. That's why he said, once you're there, you will have joy eternal. There will be no more suffering, no more pain, no more tears. And you want to give all that up for a few coppers on this earth. Abba could not have allowed Adam and Hawa to go and wash away their transgression and return to the garden. He could have allowed Adam and Hawa to go and wash away their transgression and return to the garden, but he did not permit this because their test for purity was marred. He allowed the tree of knowledge of good and evil to grow next to the tree of life, so that Adam and Hawa would have a choice to choose good over evil, to be obedient or disobedient. He gave them one law, and if they had eaten from the tree of life, then all this evil and all this wickedness would not be. If they had obeyed his one commandment, which was not to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, then they would have passed the litmus test for purity. But instead, they chose to disobey Allah's command, and they lost their glory. They lost a lot. They lost everything. And the funny thing about it, the minute they did it, they knew. And no matter how much they repented, they cried, they died so many times, he had to come and raise them up. But the grief that was upon them was so great that Allah, he had great mercy upon them, and he gave them a little bit of something from the garden to encourage them to keep living. And finally, when they finally understood there's no way back into the garden until they fulfill their days on the earth, then they began to worship him and him alone. And then they taught their sons the same thing, except for Cain, which is Cain. Abel was killed. Habal, he was killed. But Sawath, which is Seth, he lived to pass on what Adam and Hawa taught him to his children. Today we are faced with the same choices as Adam and Hawa, as the tree of knowledge of good and evil is still in existence, but on a spiritual level. And so is the tree of life. It is always here. It is always before us. Who is the tree of life? Hamashiach. When we choose to be obedient, it means that we are partaking of the fruit of the tree of life. Obedience is the fruit. Disobedience or rebellion is the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. Why do people rebel against the Most High? Because they want knowledge. They want higher knowledge. They want to be glorified as these brilliant people, these brilliant speakers, these brilliant leaders. They want to be praised. So they have to rebel against him. And that means that they're partaking of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. When you are rebellious, when you're disobedient, you're eating of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. When you're obedient and you're walking in his commandments and you're upholding all the conditions of his covenant, you are partaking of the tree of life. When you deny Hamashiach, you're partaking of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. When you believe in Hamashiach, you're partaking of the fruit of the tree of life. And all you have to do is continue along that way until you cross the finishing line, and you can literally go and grab a piece of that fruit and live forever. Got to cleanse yourself first in that water. What Allah Hayam wants from his children is obedience, which will render them righteous like he is righteous. He knew that there's coming an offspring of Adam and Hawa who will be deemed righteous and holy because they will choose to be obedient and walk in his commandments. They will choose to believe him even though they had never seen him. And I've read this scripture before and I'll read it again. For Ozara'ah, Ezra chapter 1 verse 35, your houses will I give to a people that will come. Now he's not talking about Gentiles. He's talking about a future generation that will come, not having heard of me, yet will believe me, to whom I have showed no signs. When was the last time we've seen a miracle? I'm talking about the miracles that our forefathers have witnessed and seen. Yet they do that I have commanded them. Yet they will do that I have commanded them. Verse 36. They have seen no prophets. Yet they will call their sins to remembrance and acknowledge them. That's why I'm saying there are no more prophets, and anyone calling themselves a prophet is a false prophet. And why will we call our sins to remembrance? That's what the Ruach HaKodesh is there for. When we are water baptized and we receive the baptism of the Ruach HaKodesh, he comes in and he cleans house. And part of him cleaning house is to expose the sins in our lives that we need to repent for. Right? That's how we will know the sins that are hidden in our hearts. We don't need a prophet. The Ruach HaKodesh will do it all himself. Verse 37. I take to witness the grace of the people to come, whose little ones rejoice in gladness. And though they have not seen me with bodily eyes, yet in spirit they believe in the thing that I say. And the more we learn about him and his ways, the more we believe. And when you look at all the other doctrines out there that we used to believe in, we can't believe that we used to believe in those things. And then there are other doctrines that all our brethren are believing in, and we can't believe that they're believing in those doctrines. We are that generation that Yahweh Elohim have been patiently waiting for. It's us. We're the fig tree generation. The ones that will forsake all for him. You may have lost everything, brethren, but you will gain 100-fold in the kingdom of heaven. Don't lament over things, but praise the Most High that you were obedient to surrender all to him. You know that song, I Surrender All? Leave out the Jesus name though. The righteous remnant who he had created the kingdom of heaven for to inhabit. It is for us. It is for all 12 tribes because it's coming back to the earth. But for right now, we're the ones that are going up there. Then he's going to bring it down here. And just like our living forefathers were taken in chariots of fire, speaking of Hanuak and Alayah, so will we when it is time to ascend into the third heaven to the kingdom of heaven. Hallelujah. What an awesome thing to wait for. And the time is short. The time is very short. I'm telling you. It's so short that I hope and pray that those who receive this word will not hesitate to do what they need to do to get themselves ready. Because if you're not ready, like those 5 foolish virgins, you're not going to make it. And yes, they were dead. But we can still apply the same idea to the living because it's all about preparation. If you're not prepared to receive him, he will not receive you. And that's the ending of part 5. I have one more segment to this lesson. And I pray and that you understand what the study is pointing you towards. And all I pray for is for the Most High, his Ruach HaKodesh, to enlighten you, to reveal to you the truth on the inward parts. And with that, I bid you shalom, shalom. May the Most High bless you. May he cause his face to shine upon you. May he be gracious unto you. And may he bestow all his blessings and his shalom upon you. Shalom, shalom.